recording. So we're going to welcome everyone here for our Q&A about deacon ministry, as we have some folks who are discerning whether to serve as deacon as a deacon in the coming years, in this next cohort of deacons. We are trying to elect 4 deacons to start serving in January, and you would serve 3 years from that point. Of course, life circumstances can always get in the way, and we definitely understand that. So what I'm going to do tonight is go through a little bit of information that I have developed and utilized with our present deacon board over the past couple of years in our retreat. I've broken it down with just some basic ideas about what does it mean to be a deacon and what does a deacon do. And so those are the 2 kind of discernment processes I think most of us are trying to make. Is this who I'm needing to be at this moment? And do I have the time and the energy to be able to do the work of a deacon? And we'll talk a little bit, and I think Randy and Bill especially can speak to maybe how being a deacon now might be different than maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But as we go through this, I'm going to share my screen and kind of go through a little PowerPoint. But as we do that, if you have questions, just raise your hand. And if you are, and I'll give you some chance to talk about that as well. And if there are our present deacons are here want to add in or those kind of things, that would be really helpful too, because they're the ones who really know how much time is requiring of themselves and what they're doing. So I can speak to what we're trying to do, and they can speak to, is this working? Did Eric tell us the truth last year when we met like this with him? So that's worthwhile probably asking, because I try to tell the truth, but sometimes life gets busy and we keep having to keep working. So let me get started. And everybody knows each other, I assume. I know everybody here, and so I believe everyone knows one another. I don't want to assume that, but I'm glad that everybody does. So let me share my screen briefly. And let's see. So just a quick way of just sort of helping us to think through, what does it mean to be and do in a deacon ministry. So first of all, I just want to thank our deacon nominees that are here. I thank you for being willing to enter into a time of discernment to see if this is what God's calling you to do at this moment. There is being a deacon in a Baptist church is the only thing that we call people to do. It's not an appointment. It's not it's different than in a committee or a ministry or a ministry team or other kinds of service. Literally, the church lays hands on you and calls you out to be and do the work of a deacon of service to our church. So it's a very special thing, and I'm grateful that you are entering into this with a sense of is God at work in this now for me, and I hope that you will continue to do that. And so I will say that this is going to be a general time, but if there's anything very specific that you would like to just talk through with me or with Randy as our deacon chair privately, feel free to do that also. So just on a 30,000 foot basis, and this would not have changed for those who have served before. This will be very similar to what you have done before. But I'm just going, and so we'll come back and I'll talk more specifically about this. But oftentimes the things that we think about when you think about serving as a deacon, your mind just naturally goes to, what do I have to do? And so and so that's important, but I don't think it's the most important thing of what you do and what it's about being a deacon in our Baptist church. So just some basic pieces. You provide leadership to the church, and we'll talk about what that means. You serve our families. Literally, The word deaconess is a word for service, and it comes from waiting on tables. And we meet together. And so there is meetings as a part of this, and it's regular meetings. You will pray in church about every 3 months. You will serve communion, and you will serve as deacon of the week. And I'll talk through those a little bit more. But I wanted just to kind of get that out of the way, because I know that's what most of us think about when we come to what is it going to require of me of my time. But what I would really like for you to do is to think about what does it mean for me to be a deacon? Because that's really what our church needs. Is we need these servant leaders within the life of our church, and living this role out among us. And so, just a brief thing. This is what we sent to you in your letter, and you've seen, and when people nominated you, they were reading through these things about your service as a deacon. That you have to be 18 years old. You have to have been a member of the church for at least 2 years. And you exhibit the characteristics of a deacon required in our bylaws, and you are expected to fulfill those duties and as the office of a deacon. Because you received a letter, you meet these requirements. We had some folks who haven't been. We had several folks who either weren't members yet, or hadn't been members for 2 years, who were nominated, and so they did not receive a letter. So that the fact that you did means that you met these requirements. So what does the bylaw say you're supposed to do? Is a lot broader than those pieces that when we think about about the duties of a deacon, that when you're just everyday processes of that. But you're about proclaiming the gospel. This is a part of what you are. You live the gospel out both to believers and non-believers. It's about discipling new Christians, helping new Christians make their way into the life of our church, about ministering to and caring for church members and members in the community, leading the church in its fellowship, worship, witness, ministries, and spiritual growth, and leading the church as it serves as Christ's expression to the community. So these are the things that our bylaws raises up that says these are what our deacons do. Now that's a lot different than the pieces that I just mentioned about meeting and about the priority care and about praying in church and those kind of things. So I hope that you see that that our tasks are much broader than the pieces that we list out. There are some duties that we've coordinated to help us to do the work of the church. But you are a part of everything that we do, and if you look at this, these are all leadership ministry responsibilities. And I'll talk a little bit about how we've been shifting that focus over the past few years in a few minutes. So who do our deacons need to be? One of the books that we'll study for those who come on is a book by Daniel Vestal. He says that oftentimes we feel the gap from time to time between who we are and who we need to be. And he says, I want you to see this as a wonderful gift of God. So in other words, I'm going to talk about some of the things that you're supposed to be as a deacon, and it's quite natural for none of us to feel like that we made all those requirements. If I was to read all of the requirements from the book of Timothy, you wouldn't feel like, oh, that's me. Let me just name myself. And so I want you to recognize, and I think our deacons that are here can speak to this. This is a process of becoming who God wants us to be. And becoming this person as a deacon is a part of that. So I hope that you see, even if you served before, you have some experience, but I hope that you see that these next 3 years are going to be another step of becoming who God needs you to be in this time. And so I think that's a really healthy way of thinking about being a deacon, not necessarily, oh, I don't have I can't do this, or that's not me. But God will take me where I am and grow me to who I need to be in the life of our church. So just some basic pieces about the word diakonos is Greek for servant. We talked on Sunday about Acts chapter 6, where those 7 are called out to serve the tables, literally, of the first church, those first deacons. And what they are doing is they're stepping into this masterpiece that Jesus has created, and they're helping to find their place in it. That's our task. The church is asking you to consider stepping forward to become a greater expression of God's creation as you lead and serve our church. So as deacons, here are some things that we ask you to be within the life of the church. We ask you to be aware of the ways that God is working in and through the church. So one of the things that we do is that we're always saying, where is God at work and how can we join him? And that's a big task because it means you're always looking for God's spirit, not just about, this is more than just managing things. This is about seeing how God is at work in our church. We ask you to be people who are ready to join Jesus in whatever living pictures of service he invites us to step into. You might be asked to do some things that you may have not done before, but you say, this is a service that needs to happen to the church, and I'm willing to help do that. There are very few of our deacons that are serving now who are experts in COVID, but we were all having to try to figure that out together and find ways to help serve our church in that way. And we ask you to be good stewards who joyfully share the gifts we find in our relationship with Jesus with those in care. So that means you're living this idea of generosity within the life of our church. Generosity of your time, your talents, and your testimony. So we made a few of the deacon logistics. We have a deacon retreat in January of 2022. It was a briefer one last year because of COVID, but I hope that this year we will be in person and be able to at least have a longer Saturday morning retreat to be able to prepare and get ready for the coming year. There are monthly deacons meetings. Usually it's the third Sunday of each month after worship. It has primarily been on Zoom this year. I have a feeling it'll be more in person in the coming year with a Zoom option. And so if you can't be there that day, I have a feeling there will be some opportunities for people to still be able to Zoom in even when you're out of town. So, but those will still be developed as we move into next year. You will be serving communion. We are working for this week to have our first communion without just using the communion kits this Sunday. So you will be asked to do this about 2 to 3 times a year. We usually do communion about 6 or 7 times each year. So there's 12 of us, and so you can kind of count that out. It's kind of ways you can serve. You'll be asked to do an offertory prayer. We've been doing that, some called the stewardship prayer, through the summer. Until we start taking up offering by hand again with our ushers. We're not doing that at the moment for the next month or two. So that just continues to evolve. And a few other deacon logistics. We do ask you to serve as deacon of the week. For example, Carol Lavin is deacon of the week this week, and usually you're sharing with another person. So if there's 6 or 7, if there's 12 deacons, you're serving about 6 or 7 times weeks every 6 or 7 weeks, and that usually means. And we'll in a second we'll have some of our deacons speak about what some of the stuff they've done. But usually that means calling the church on Monday morning and saying, are there some folks I need to reach out to? I mean, Bill's done that, and he's done some nice phone calls to people who are coming out of the hospital or some things like that. And so sometimes that means me calling you to go help me do a pastoral visit or some of those kind of things. We haven't done a lot of that because of COVID. It's still been very closed down for how much you can make visits in the hospital. But that hopefully will be changing more in the coming year. Some of our deacons will serve as liaison to our 6 standing committees of the church, helping bring information from those committees into the deacon board. We ask you to just be aware of what's going on with people's lives. We will do, we've done this a good bit this summer, where we have our First Baptist Church leadership, where we ask our deacons, our church council, which are the committee chairs, to get together and kind of make some plans for the coming year. This year, those help to guide all of our new Sunday morning schedule, and I'm sure will help to keep guiding us along in some of those other things. So we've been moving, I think, from my years here, from a sense of management to a sense of leadership in our deacons. How so that y'all's vision are higher. I mean, I think about this year, our deacons were really engaged in helping us to reimagine what Sunday mornings can be in our church. And that's a really powerful leadership role. That's more than just trying to manage to make sure we're keeping everything, running a tight ship. That's still important, but y'all are kind of helping to kind of help guide where we're going. And then you do the deacon care ministry. Some of the logistics about that. Our deacon vice chair helps lead our deacon care ministry, kind of keeping up with who's on the deacon care list. These are primarily homebound members of our church. We work with those folks to try to see if they want to be connected to a deacon, and they kind of help pay attention to their needs. So these are a lot of our folks in independent and assisted living, but also some other folks within the life of the church. You will be made an assignment to usually 2, maybe 3 individuals or a couple, and that's made in January when we get started. We would like for you to provide communion for our priority care members. We've talked about that a lot, but because of COVID, we have not been able to do that as much as we would like. So I hope that we can begin to do that in the coming year. We use something called Realm to help do communication, and I think we will be doing more of that in the coming year. We've done some work around that, but it hasn't all started to take place in our deacons. I think we'll do some more training of that in our January meeting. So I want you to hear my desire. When you serve as a deacon, like when Bill and Randy are rotating off, what I hope most is that this will be a fulfilling service experience filled with spiritual ministry and leadership growth. That when you're done, you will say, I'm really glad I did that. I can see how God has used me in some very specific ways. And I've grown in my life with Jesus. I want this to be something that is fulfilling to you, not a sense of either just duty or just responsibility, or a sense that you just never can get it right. That's one of the most frustrating things, I think, for me when I'm working with deacons is if you just feel like I can never get this right. You ask me to do so much, and I can't, and I never can get it all done. And so I want it to be a sense that that it's a challenge. It pushes you to try new things, but also that you feel like by doing that you're coming out stronger in your life with Jesus. So that's my basic presentation. I'll let our deacons who are here, who have served before, or our deacons who are presently now, do y'all have anything to add? Is that a good overview? Is there some more that you would add that would be important to know if you're considering serving as a deacon?
It's a good overview, but I have a few points that might help.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody's as emotional and take this to the heart as much as I do, but the laying of hands service was one of the most wonderful moments I've ever been led to as a Christian. The fact that everybody wants to encourage you, and I could really feel the Holy Spirit coming through all of you that laid hands on me many years ago. And serving the Lord's Supper is also, you can feel the Spirit moving within you. And just to be able to help with that and be able to do that with everybody, although we've been limited and I miss it, is also one of the wonderful things. The other thing is, I've developed a close relationship with the priority care members I've been taking care of. And you can learn a lot from their Christian behavior that you didn't know before. And maybe that's mine. And I was able to help our Miss Bialy through the death of her husband and all of that. So I think that's a very benefit, even though you have to remind yourself to do it. And I'm always impressed what Randy Jarman is too much he's taking on. And I've been lucky in that respect. just a little bit of Eric Spivey's leadership. Even though I went into this looking at my experiences 3 years ago, and I found his leadership open to questions and discussion a little bit more than I did from the previous leadership. And I think the way Pastor Spivey is going in the direction that he's going, I think it's a good direction, and the church should support that. Two more questions, two more things, if I can add. I know this is a lot.
Go for it, Bill.
Yeah, man, go for it. Each year of the church is important, but it's nice to maybe go into this end of the year with a little bit of positive money, or however you guys put it. So I think that's important. And the last point is, for me, I feel like a senator or representative, and that I try to discern what the church members are feeling and try to talk with that. And I think that's important as well. You're a representative of the church. So what I would like to end with is, this has been one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in the church, and I can feel God lead me when I was first led into this. And to tell you the truth, I'll miss it, but I could use some rest. But I would say that I'm going to continue the relationship with my priority care member, and don't want to give it up, so to speak. So if you get mine, then she'll have two.
Good. Thank you, Bill, for your service, and I'm grateful that it's been such a fulfilling ministry for you, and I've really appreciated your ministry with your families, and being able to partner with you to do that. That is always a great way as pastor to know that we're serving together and as partners, and that was a great and that was definitely that case. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other deacons want to say anything, or do those who are considering this, what kind of questions do you have? I always hope to try to answer as many of your questions as possible before you ask them, but hopefully there might be still some more specific ones that you might ask either me or our deacons that are here.
Hey, Eric, I was just going to try to just add on a little bit to Bill, what Bill had to say about with the priority care folks. I've enjoyed meeting with them on a regular basis, and these ladies are all in their 90s. So not only have they, shared their historical perspective of the church and how it's evolved over the years, but because of their longevity, they've also just been able to share their life experience over almost a century, which has been interesting. And I've learned quite a bit just from about Gainesville and other things, and so it's been enjoyable to really, get to know these ladies. The other thing I was going to say real quick is that to me, when becoming a deacon was like just another step. And when I first came here, I was just when the church was still being built, I was just an attender, and then I became a member, and then I was asked to serve on the finance committee, and then be the chair of the finance committee. And so this just felt like the next logical step to help kind of grow as a Christian and a person in the church. So it's been enjoyable for me.
Good.
I would like to add that I agree with everything Randy says, but if you listen to Pastor Spivey's sermon this Sunday, you could feel that God was leading all of us to try to participate in everything. And I think the deaconship, as like he said, was one of the most important things that God wants you to do. And if you fear the Spirit leading you, especially with that sermon, God is basically telling you what he wants you to do.
Very good. What
Well,
other
the other
questions?
day, Harriet, sorry,
Go ahead, Diane.
Harriet Spangler brought out something that, and I guess it's kind of been on my mind too, about the church needing younger deacons to serve. And I don't know how many people are on that list that are younger. But if on the list and elected, it just seems like I wouldn't want to take the place of somebody who is younger that might really want to serve.
I would say, Diane, that it needs to be your discernment about yourself versus trying to figure out who's serving and who's not. And I think that the church will be discerning that as well. And so if you feel like, Lord, if you need me to serve, I'll serve. And because what I try to help to frame to help us to see this is that all of this is a discernment process from the church as a whole. Who do we think could be a good deacon? And so all of you have been nominated. It's a discernment process with each one of you of, Lord, is this the right time for me to serve again? And do I have the right spirit, the right time, is this the right season of my life? Because there are some seasons that aren't right. And I recognize that, and it may be time to wait. And so I think it's a discernment, Lord, is this right for me? And then I think on the other side, then the church then has the moment to say, and so if we have more than 4 people, the church is saying, which of these do we feel like are the right ones now? And it might be that some are younger, some of them are older. I think the church gets to make that decision. And so I would, if you feel the Lord calling you to do this, or at least to say, I'm open to this, then I would say submit your name and let the Lord sort that out in that final stage. So I think if you approach it that way, then one, it doesn't feel like a popularity contest or a vote in some form of that way. Because I want people to see that that's not what this is. This is a discernment process. Who have we is the right leader for this coming year, and so people use different metrics as a part of that. But I hope that I would say, listen to the Spirit in that way. And if you feel like, in that's one of your discernment markers, then I definitely respect that too.
Okay, that makes sense.
Other questions? Susan, have you served as a deacon?
I have.
Okay.
I have.
Okay.
It's been a while.
So, well, I don't want to take more time than anyone needs, but I also want to make sure that all hearts and minds are clear. So, any other questions or reflections about serving as deacons? Does this seem the same as what we've done? When you served before? Is this still a little bit different? How does just reflection of from the last times y'all have served? How does this, how we're framing it, communicating it, how does it compare to what you've done in the past?
I think the communication is a lot better.
Okay.
But we didn't have Zoom back then.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Well, 2 years ago, I had no idea what this was either. We just met in the conference room with about 4 of us. So yeah, although Zoom does make it a little bit easier to get several of us in one room and answer questions, but yeah.
The process and everything seems to be the same.
Okay.
Yeah, so I could jump in. I mean, I think one of the challenges that I have was the priority care or primary care, whatever we want to call it, in terms of the individuals that have been assigned to you, but also for me, young families and traveling and on the weekends. I think Zoom would make it a little bit easier, but on the weekends, it's usually the time that I have at home with the kids. And it's something that I'm challenged with. 2020 left us where I was not able to participate in the church as much as I would have liked to. I watched a whole bunch of it on Zoom, a lot of living room worships. You had First Baptist Church being watched in California and Arizona and Texas and DC and all over the place. But, Bill, there are two pieces that come from you that kind of show why my heart's torn a little bit. The first part is where you said, God, I could use a break. And I can relate to that. That is exactly how I felt when I was doing it. Now, it was deacons, greeters, committees, pastor search. So there was a whole bunch of different stuff going on, but it carries a different feeling to it. So the holy piece, the way that you act yourself, the way that you hold yourself in regard, and any decision that you make, knowing that you're a deacon, you're a servant of the Lord, you're representative of the church, is something I want, something I want to do. But the time commitment and following up with individuals, I felt guilty all the time that I wasn't able to get in touch with my priority care folks enough. And losing one of them as well felt really bad, but luckily I was able to get in touch with them right before that happened. Probably a 2-month lapse between then, though, that I felt bad about. So there are parts of it that just sharing, Pastor Eric, because you asked.
Yeah.
In terms of how it sounds the same and different. That's what I would kind of throw in there.
I understand that.
I would like to, I had a problem with pastoral care also. I struggled with it. I only visited a couple of times and I spent more letters. I am just not very good at visiting. Even though I like to talk, I'm not very good at visiting.
Yeah. I think, we have tried to do some more training to help people feel to sort of understand what to do. I do think that each as we talked about Sunday, I think God has equipped each one of us a little bit differently. And so I think that you have to sort of find your niche of what works for you. What Randy does for some of his priority care, not very few people can do that. And so, but those are Randy's gifts, and he lives it that way. Liz Piazza is rotating off. Liz is homebound to her home now. She's homebound. She's not able to visit, but she is writing cards all the time to folks, encouraging and checking in on folks in that kind of way. So I think each person has to sort of find their own pattern and their own giftedness, and not look to what other people are doing, but what you can do. And work to be able to do that. I do want to. We've talked about this, but it just really has been difficult because of COVID. We first trained on this in January of 2020, and before we could ever really get it together, the pandemic hit. But homebound communion, and where you go in and help lead communion with one of the people that you're been caring for, is a really powerful. It gives you something to do when you come to visit. It's not like, I'm just coming to visit, how are you today? But you can come in, and it's a really powerful ministry event that just gives you it into their space, and lets you spend a little bit of time with folks, and you can kind of build that as you want. And then, David, I would just simply say, I do think that one of the things that's changed over the past couple of years is that Zoom is definitely a bigger part of what we do, and I think it will continue to be that way. And so I think that we will probably, even though we hopefully will move to more in-person meetings, that there will continue to be Zoom components. I think I know that Jason and Brooke will probably continue to be a part of that. They've been at various kids events on Sunday afternoons while we're meeting there. So they're Zooming in the parking lot or in the ball field or something like that. And they've been able to do that. So I think that's one element that might be able to make that a little bit easier. And then the second thing would be, I think one of the things that we can work on, and I think that's just really helpful with, as we move forward and thinking about how to serve, is being really intentional about thinking about who, if, I mean, our working deacons are going to just be, and especially those who are traveling, are just going to have a different schedule than our deacons that are either in town all the time or retired or those kind of things. And we may just need to think through that some with our priority care assignments. There are some that where you can do some of those connecting by phone while you're traveling. It isn't always necessarily be why you have to be in person or that type of thing. So I think that there are movements that help make that possible that we could work around. We just takes a little bit of intentionality to it. But I think everybody's going to have to everybody brings their own schedule, their own skill sets. But everybody brings some things that the church needs that's different than what other people bring. And I think, Diane, that's one of the challenges of bringing younger deacons on, is what David's talking about. We need them in the life of our church, but the requirements of raising a family and being a worker or business person or whatever have different challenges too. So I think that's why God needs all of us who are willing to sort of find their way to see if it will work.
Eric, have y'all met in person?
We met in person for several months this summer, kind of hybrid meetings, and then we backed off in August after COVID, after Delta came on. Randy and I will probably talk. We'll talk. Randy, we can talk right now. I'm kind of thinking that finishing up on Zoom for this year and then starting brand new in January probably is a good plan. We have a couple more meetings still to go, but we'll kind of work that out as a deacons for this year. But I have a feeling it'll be for 2022. It'll be primarily meeting in person with a Zoom option when you're out of town.
When I was a deacon before, the meetings were so long, and part of it was just eating. And I was hoping that it would just be a meeting and you could leave.
Yeah, what we have been doing is we've been meeting at 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoons is what we have been doing this year. We kind of settled into that somewhere in the first part of COVID as kind of where we sort of settled into that. And that's that. It was pretty much just all meeting, and when meetings our shortest meeting was in September. We actually met for like 30 or 40 minutes, and we all got done. And like, did we just get done with the meeting? What's going on? But there have been a lot. But as you can imagine, with COVID, there have been a lot longer meetings that we've had to have, just dealing with a variety of those different challenges.
Okay.
One thing I'd like to add to David's remarks, I didn't mean to tell you that I needed to break because the workload was so heavy. I think it's just rotating off, and a year of 12 months like the bylaws state, I would be ready to go again. And if Pastor Eric said, heck with the bylaws, would you serve again? I would certainly do that. Practicality, one thing we've learned from the COVID, especially about visiting, is that it's very important to make contact with whoever you can. Liz Piazza's way, I've been working on phone calls because Mrs. Viali keeps forgetting to add me to the visitor list. But I know deacons in the past have, because of their schedule, have at least communicated with phone, and certainly you have no reason to feel guilty if that's the only thing that you and your priority care member does. I mean, certainly I'd like to visit, but I'm retired and I can. But I do it once a month, and I'd like to do it more, but to tell you the truth, I forget and get involved in something else. But practicality, like Pastor Eric said, you can make it work. And I know deacons who've done that.
David, some things I've done is just set on my calendar a reminder at a certain time that I know during the week that I'm probably going to be traveling, and it comes up on my phone to call a certain person, and I just do that on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, and it just reminds me to check in on them, and so that even those little pieces, it might be less than 5 minutes, but it's just reminding them that, hey, I'm around and I'm thinking about you, and hey, can I pray for you today? And those little parts mean a lot. So I think that it's not necessarily how much of the quantity as if the feeling that someone's just remembering me. And so I think with a little bit of intentionality that you do in other ways of your work or business to check on this customer and check on this thing going on, those little parts could go a long way of making someone in our congregation feel really connected. And easily, if you find something's going on and you're out of town, we've got deacons of the week who can assist with that. You've got us as well. So, if you call someone and all of a sudden you find out, hey, they're in the hospital, or I can't get a hold of somebody, can someone check on them? That's where we work as a team and not just will feel like that it's just by yourself as well. So I think feeling like there's only just you who has to get it done might be one of those ways of helping to stay connected with folks. That maybe that's helpful, maybe not, but just kind of give you some thoughts on that. All right,
Diane, I'd like to address, and I think what Pastor Eric said about feeling a relationship with God and having him help you with this discernment you also have to remember that the younger people have a lot of things in their life that they may be focused on, especially school and work and just getting started in life. So, someone in the church has, tabbed you as being a potential deacon. I am sure that they admire your leadership and your Christian beliefs. They're so far beyond mine. I can't even address that. But I've worked with you, and I think all of those people that I see right now would make wonderful deacons. I'm disappointed there are no men that have two men, but that this is what this church is all about as well, is bringing women in leadership position, and I'm all for that.
All right, all hearts and minds clear. Have we left anything out?
Oh no, did Bill just call me a woman? Is that what he said?
I think he did, but I wasn't gonna say.
No.
I think he forgot to
Okay.
that we had the real man
Don't
here.
make any comments about Bill's
That was
comments.
funny.
I'll tell you. Wow. He's ruthless, right for the jugular there.
Listen here, you better.
It's the medication.
Bill, you better watch it next time you go play golf with David. I'm not sure there's going to be any
no strokes for
sorry.
you.
That's right.
I'm sorry. It was a bad joke, and I think it had to do with connections and not being able to understand my words because of the connection, and that's the best excuse. That's the best excuse I can find.
All good, Bill.
Yeah.
All
Gotta
good.
have grace. I got it. I got it.
I apologize, David.
Oh, no, that's no pressure. I got it. But, and Pastor Eric, I appreciate the comments that you had too, but that was one of the things that it weighs on your mind, to take on a task like this and then pass it on to others. So I appreciate that. And I know that everybody does, but that's just part of my discernment process is taking this on and knowing that I'm not going to be riding the work of everybody else, that I'll be able to participate. And because also having a young family, I think one of the important things to mention is I want my kids to see me doing this. I want them to realize how important it is to do this for God and to give thanks for God and to set that type of example. But at the same time, I don't want them to resent me doing it. So those are just some of the things going through my mind. But conscience is clear there, Bill. No bad feelings here. That's all right.
Well,
I hope you take the other words that I have to say to heart.
yes.
Absolutely.
Well, the final thing I would say with that, David, is that we all bring all of what we can be to this task. And there are things that you bring because of your stages in life, because of your stage in life, that we don't have, in that people in other stages of life can get a bring, can be brought, that can bring. So you have a voice that is important, I think, and I think that's one of the things that Diane was trying to say when she, in the comments about Miss Harriet, is there is a you bring a voice that is needed in our leadership, as well as in these other elements. And I think that and so I think because of that, it's important for, I think, as in our deacon body, to recognize that there are that we all have different kind of time challenges. And so I would say it's less than let someone else take this responsibility from me, but we all are part of this together. I mean, there are times that I'm out of town that I've got to ask, deacons to help go, can you go do this? I can't, there's where we just need one another. And so that's just part of I mean, I think the biggest part of deacon care is really just staying connected with the people that they feel connected to. There's someone within the church who feels connected to them, and that's as much vital as anything. And so if you feel like you can do that, then I would say it's something for you to really consider. Can I stay connected even though I may not be in town all the time? And so So I would just give you that part to reflect on. You've got to decide for yourself, is this the right season and time? But I think that going in with realistic expectations is important too.
Well, and I didn't mean to interrupt you there at all, but I did want to send a note to Miss Diane that if I had a feeling that, because I was quote unquote younger, but getting older every day, that it would keep someone that I regard as Christ-like and holy in their walk with Christ as her, to not put her name in the hat, that I'd pull my name out right away. So please do not take that into consideration during this piece here. I just want you to have a clear mind on that aspect.
Yeah, I understand.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. My goodness.
Well, does anybody else want to say something nice to anybody tonight?
Pastor Eric, if you'll, kind of take that part out of me calling David a woman out of your recording, I would appreciate that.
Bill, if I was smart enough to do it, I would, but I'm afraid I'm not. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, David, you can try to not hit me with the golf ball next time we're playing.
No, I'm going to hit from the ladies' tees. This is going to be awesome.
There you go.
Hey, I do. I do. I'm older, so I can say, I need to hit closer.
All right.
That's funny.
All right, y'all. I will say this. So if for those who are candidates or nominees, you've got about till next Sunday or Monday to let me know whether you want to serve or not, or whether you're going to put your name in the hat for the next set of discernment. What we'll do once we know that is we will I'll get some information from you. What we've done the past couple of years is we will send out some information about each of our candidates to the church as a whole, so they can get a chance to know you. Not everyone recognizes all names, so we'll have a picture that goes with it. And then we will have a church, a business meeting in November where our deacon, I think this is going to have, we have to vote on several things. And I think deacon, that will be where we vote on our deacons too. That I've got to talk with Randy about that, but we'll coordinate that as well. So you would, our first meeting would actually be a brief one in December when we vote on our church deacon officers for the coming year, because those deacon officers then would help us to get started with our deacon retreat and care plan and those kind of things. All right. All right. Randy, would you offer a word of prayer for us and for these folks that have gathered here tonight?
Sure. Dear Lord, watch over everyone this week and keep us all safe and in good health. Watch over everyone and have them good thoughts, and as they discern whether they want to serve or not, and let you lead their hearts and their minds in the direction that you want them to go. Let us all have a safe week this week. We'll pray in all His Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Eric.
Have a good night.
you.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.